Hi, everyone. I'm John Hickey, Group Sales Director for Crane's Global Polymer Group. I want to welcome you to today's webinar presented by Evertis and organized by Plastics News. All right, I see people are still joining, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we will be exploring the strategic partnership designed to deliver a seamless total package approach. By uniting Evertis's pioneer PET-based forming films with Belmark's industry-leading printing and lidding capabilities, they are solving the complex challenges of the top and bottom film simultaneously. Today, you're going to hear from experts in the field. Let me go ahead and introduce you to today's speakers. First off, we've got Daniel Carney, Chief Business Officer with Evertis. Hello, Daniel.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
All right, then we have Priscilla Mello, Technical Director of Evertis Packaging Solution. Hello, Priscilla.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And now we have Jason Vandeloo, Director of Business Development with Belmark. Hi, Jason.
Good afternoon.
And we have Kyle Girardin, Research Engineer with Belmark. Welcome, Kyle.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Okay, before we begin, I'd like to go through some general housekeeping to our audience. If you have questions you'd like to ask throughout the presentation, you can go ahead and open up the Q&A icon, which will either be at the top or the bottom of your screen. If you click on that icon, a window is going to pop up. You can type in your question and send it in at any time during the presentation. We will answer your questions during Q&A after the presentation is over. Now, I'd like to turn it over to our speakers. Daniel, the floor is yours.
John, thank you very much. And thanks, everyone, for joining our webinar today. The purpose of the webinar is really to provide some insight on how our two companies identified opportunities to address needs in the marketplace when considering thermoform packaging design and supplier selection. Evertis and Belmark are two standalone companies participating in different areas of the packaging industry. Evertis is a manufacturer of PET-based forming films, and Belmark is a multifaceted supplier to brand owners in need of labels, flexible packaging, folding cartons, and a number of other services. Speaking on behalf of Evertis, which is the company I'm part of, we feel the need for high barrier, semi-rigid, and flexible forming films from our manufacturing sites in Portugal, in Italy, in Brazil, in Mexico, and in 2028, Columbia, South Carolina. Evertis is part of the IMG Group, which is a multinational family-owned business originally based out of Portugal. We started in 1959. And polyester is what we're all about. We have a sister manufacturing company called Solenis that makes polyester resins. We also have recycling. And so polyester is really where Evertis lives. And I'll turn it over to Jason to give a brief overview of Belmark.
Thanks, Dan. So as Dan mentioned, Belmark is nearly a 50-year established company. We're private, family held, 9 manufacturing locations. And as Dan mentioned, we have 3 different divisions that we support packaging. So we have a labels division, pressure sensitive labels. We have a flexible packaging division, and we have a folding carton, not corrugated, but paperboard carton and sleeve division. All 3 of those divisions complement one another and all centrally utilize the same central service team. We've helped our brands accelerate over the years by really putting a differentiation to the service commitment that we provide. And that spans anything from no minimum order quantities to half the industry lead times. So lidding film, as it complements the Evertis solutions, is only one segment of our business and falls within the flexible packaging division. So we're excited to be part of this and look forward to your questions today.
So we've coined a term called a partnership with a purpose, and it's really come out of our companies when we began working together a number of years ago to address a need that was really being expressed by some brand owners to have a tighter link between the top and the bottom of a thermoform package. And in many cases, our two companies go to market on our own. However, when presented with this specific customer need, we began to explore whether a closer collaboration between our two companies could bring added value to brands seeking a better model. And as we looked around the marketplace, we saw suppliers who offered the complete package, but tend to guide brand owners toward the packaging manufacturer's preferred solution, which often results in a limited number of options for both the top and the bottom of the package when compared to companies like Belmark and Evertis that truly specialize in our respective parts of the package. And this approach from single source suppliers also tends to lock brand owners into a service model and sometimes a way of doing business, which is often less than optimal. And we thought we could do better. As you saw in the previous slide, we're starting from some shared values and legacy. And we both are privately held. We're family-owned businesses with a passion for delivering service levels above and beyond the norm in the marketplace. And we've called that a partnership with purpose. And we'd like to spend just a little more time on this specific slide just to talk about some of the points that highlight what truly makes a collaborative approach like the one between our two companies really stand apart. And as you can see on the left side, there you see Belmark. And for our purposes, think of them as the top of the package, the lidding. And on the right side, you see Evertis, and think of Evertis as the bottom of the package. In the middle of this graphic, you see kind of the shared attributes that when we looked at each other, we said, these are things that we both really believe in and help drive collaboration to higher levels of brand value for brand owners. I guess top of the list, customer first mindset. And we feel like this is something that has been lost in the race for companies to consolidate and grow. We feel like flexible operations and order fulfillment is really about being easy to work with and taking noise out of the business so that we can focus on driving greater value. Sustainable innovation, sustainability is everywhere, but both Evertis and Belmark are leaders in our respective spaces and have tangible solutions to help you achieve sustainability goals. And from a technical support standpoint in the field through product development engineers, as well as machine experts in our technical service teams, we can help turn ideas into reality on your equipment and with your products. I'll turn it back to Jason to build on these points.
Thanks, Dan. So as Dan states, two experts, as the slide states, that have a lot of joint business philosophy. So that's where the collaboration has been identified. And the first thing that translates into is a unified accountability commitment to you as the mutual customer. So often, if you go and independently source a top and a bottom solution, there's not that collaborative foundation. And if something does go amiss, and in a manufacturing environment, we all know from time to time, things will arise, challenges will come up, whether that's driven by things that we encounter unexpected, or it's just through recognized innovation. The unified accountability really anchors that both Evertis and Belmark will work collaboratively, transparently, and efficiently, urgently on behalf of you as a mutual customer. Another thing that shares a lot of the philosophy as it relates to the service commitments, both on Evertis and Belmark's side of things, is our lead time commitments. With a service mindset, we have an industry commitment that beats the industry by at least half. In some cases, better. We always ask our customers, when do you need it? Not, here's our lead time, hope that works for you. So we have a very strong leading commitment as it relates to our lead times mutually. Reliability, right? If you ask the average consumer what they want something that's faster. They want something that's easier. They want something that's more reliable. And again, through collaboration and transparency, and Evertis and Belmark working behind the scenes on whatever the challenge may be that we're working to solve with you as the customer, that reliability and predictability will be a result of that work. And Dan already mentioned, the strong technical expertise. In this case, you as the customer are benefiting from, again, two individual companies' collaborative technical teams. Belmark is an expert in flexible packaging. Evertis is an expert in the bottom forming webs. And again, being experts in each of those areas demonstrates depth that again overlaps one another in a sense that blends the technical expertise. So this slide speaks a little bit. Today, we're going to present to you a real-world case study. But what we really would like to emphasize is the diversity and broad distribution of value that can span multiple markets. Okay. We could talk all day on a conceptual basis, but I think it's important for you to understand the meat and potatoes, so to speak, the true details related to a case study. But as Dan mentioned, as we move forward and we talk through this, understand again, Belmark has the role of the top of the package. Evertis has the role of the bottom of the package. And it's those two things in marriage that create the total package solution.
Great. So as Jason mentioned, we talked about presenting a case study, not as much to present specifically this solution, but to present this solution as an outcome of the way that we work together, which we think is kind of the 1 + 1 = something more than 2 anecdote. So, we're presenting this case study to highlight some of the advantages of that collaborative approach that we've developed. When packaging people go to the supermarket, it's often an extended walk through a grocery store or large format store, and so much so that family members often don't want to go with us because we will spend a lot of time looking at packages. And earlier this year, our team was talking specifically about this type of a package format. It's a sliced pepperoni packaging that's commonly used in the industry, and we felt we could do better, and we thought there was an opportunity to help. As you can see here, retailers are struggling a bit to display this package. It generally looks a bit saggy because of the lack of stiffness of the package itself. It feels limp in the hand of the consumer, so it doesn't convey the same level of premium feel that other package formats do. It is widely used in the industry, and so we think any step change improvement could be pretty significant improvement for both the retailer and the consumer experience. So we saw an opportunity to move this package forward, not just from a on-shelf performance in hand of consumer performance, but also from a sustainability perspective. And so we decided to run some trials. And we built a model to kind of collaboratively walk through the whole test process, and that model is sort of outlined here. But ultimately, we knew that based on the solutions that we were putting forward, that we should see some improvements, specifically in stiffness, and that would translate then to appearance on shelf. The material that we selected for the forming film is called Evertis's Flex Block product. It's a new to the world, high barrier flexible forming film designed with a PET backbone, as opposed to what is kind of the industry standard, which is a polyamide type construction. Now, we knew that PET would help with the display performance on shelf, and that we could build PCR content into the package from a sustainability perspective. PCR from PET is widely available. We use it every day in lots of different products. It's organoleptically very clean, and so it's a great choice to also up the sustainability of this package. From a top film perspective, we by design took a Me Too approach, basically a polyester print film laminated to an EVOH containing sealant. And in this test case, we chose to limit the number of variables which could impact outcomes. And so that's why we took a standard top film approach. If we were successful, we knew that we could then further add some interesting functionality to the top of the package through peel reseal, through alternate materials, and that was kind of next level development that we would then pursue. I'll turn the discussion over to Priscilla Mello, Evertis's technical director, to speak a bit more on the details of this development.
Thanks, Dan. So let me share some of the testing work that helped us to validate the expected improvement and also, as Dan mentioned, identify some additional benefits. So the first variable that we evaluate was the depth of draw. In thermoforming, draw depth is a very key variable because it directly impacts material distribution, forming stress, cycle time, and final package appearance. So by moving to a Evertis flex block, we are able to optimize the pocket depth. So we move it from 65 millimeters to 55 millimeters. And with this change, we achieved a tighter and more structured package. So with that, we have a better product distribution, improved the shelf presentation, and stronger the material in the most critical areas of the packaging. So this 10 millimeter reduction in draw depth also translates in operational benefits. So we are able to have the benefit of up to 20 additional packages per minute on the thermoforming line. That's very, very important for, again, and it can adds up very quickly, as you can imagine. The second key measurement was the corner and the wall thickness of the thermoformed tray. And corners are one of the most critical areas in any thermoformed package. So they are typically the thinnest point after forming, and they are also where barrier performance and mechanical resistance are most at risk when you use for vacuum or even handling or abusive condition of the packaging. So with this, when you compare the current film, we are talking a 7 mil forming film, and the corner thickness was approximately 1 mil. And with the 6 mil flex block Evertis structure, we achieved 1.5 mil in the corners. So wall thickness followed the same positive trend, increasing from 3 mil to 4 mil. Okay, so these numbers are important because better thickness retention in critical areas support improved package integrity, and also is the most important to guarantee the oxygen barrier protection after forming. So on the next slide, just to compare the current structure with the new structure developed through the partnership and all this trial we did together, Evertis and Belmark. So when you look at the first line, we are talking on the top film. And as Dan mentioned before, we keep it intentionally the very similar construction. And the goal is, again, to limit the number of variables and really focus on the forming film and package design. So even with that, the top web was selected for sealant capability with the forming web to maintain and try to maintain the same or very similar conditions of the current material. Okay. With that, we saw that the new forming film is 14% thinner overall. So we moved from 7 mil polyamide PE-based structure for a 6 mil polyester-based structure. But even with the lower gauge, the final package delivered better performance in the areas that matter the most, as I mentioned before. Another point is because the new structures is a PET-based, it also created the opportunity to incorporate up to 20% PET PCR. And as you know, increasingly important for brands manage sustainability goals and EPR related requirements. The reduced draw depth also brings several packaging and operational advantage. It supports faster cycle times, but also create a better fit between the pockets and the products. So that means improved product distribution inside the package, reduced unnecessary headspace, and also cleaner shelf presentation. Okay. From the thickness rotation standpoint, as mentioned before, you can see here the result was corner thickness improved by 50% and wall thickness improved by 33% of the package. So with this, when you compare with this new structure, you are not seeing a trade-off. You are seeing a thinner structure that still delivers strong performance in the most critical areas. Okay. And on the next slide, we had the before and after images. So the current package is softer, has more space, and excess headspace. It's more difficult to display consistently on shelf. And on the other hand, the new package is tighter, more structure, and it has a more premium appearance. So as mentioned before, these are the improvements that you are expecting to see. So better retail display, improved appearance, better hand feel. And with all the testing protocol that we work together, we are able to identify these additional benefits beyond the original expectation, supporting improvement in both structure and also performance. So the new structure is thinner, runs faster, provide better material distribution after forming, and also improve the packaging appearance, that what we are looking at the start of this development. And we, as Dan mentioned, also on the leading film side, we know that for future, we have opportunities beyond what was trialed. So I will now hand it over to Kyle to talk more about opportunities on the leading side.
Yeah, on the lidding side, we have the opportunity as well to change to a resealable packaging option. We can bring in a new reduction in plastic there by taking out the zipper that exists, as well as the ability to provide a better consumer experience. Really, that EPR impact is going to be the key factor on the top side. Yeah, I'll kind of touch on some kind of closing remarks here at the end as well. We've collaborated, Belmark and Evertis, on many different segments. So sliced meat, fresh meat, cheese, all of these different segments we have the capability to collaborate on. And then kind of most importantly, I want to reiterate some of the stuff that Jason and Dan talked about earlier. Being two separate companies working as experts in our own fields, we're able to bring that lead time that's 50% less than industry standard. But then also we can bring our separate analytical lab capabilities. We both have our own analytical labs. We can hit it from both sides if there's any issues. Priscilla has done a lot of testing. I've done a lot of testing at the same time, as well as we have worked together a lot to pre-test a lot of these solutions. So these are all categories we've worked in together already. We've tested our films together and have optimized those products so that when you come to us, we already know what bottom web, what top web need to go together.
Very good. Well, I think we'd love to open it up to some questions. We've had a few coming in here, and so John will help organize this as as we begin to answer some of these.
Okay, great. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. Now we are going to get into the Q&A. And again, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A icon at the top or the bottom of your screen to send in the questions. We'll answer them as they come in. All right, I'd like to welcome back the speakers here from Evertis and Belmark to help us answer these great questions that are coming in from the audience. We'll start off with this one because it did come in from a few different people asking, is this an exclusive partnership or do both companies work with other partners in the form, fill, seal space?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the answer to it speaks a bit to kind of how our two companies think about how we go to market. And what I'd start with is it's absolutely not an exclusive partnership. We both have pretty flexible mindsets in terms of ways of working to ultimately solve needs that customers bring to our attention. And so it's not exclusive. We do like to work together. We work well together. We loop in machine manufacturers to the collaboration as well when we need to. Ultimately, it's about giving brand owners a surety that when you partner with us, we're going to cover all bases.
Excellent. Okay, another question here from the audience. What were the biggest challenges in coordinating between a lidding film supplier and a forming film supplier, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I'll take that one, John. Thanks. Again, in many cases where these two entities have to work in harmony, right? There's the third entity, which is the machine, but it's really top, bottom, and machine that have to work in harmony to derive a successful package. So Dan just mentioned that the third leg of the stool being the machine, we work very collaboratively with the machine side as well. But at all costs, we want to avoid any finger pointing where if, again, an issue does arise, where bottom points at top, top points at machine, machine points at bottom, right? Like that will be avoided at all costs. It is a unified commitment. So when we look at the challenges, we have proactively identified many of those challenges that are market specific or product specific. For example, cheese may encounter a completely different set of key criteria or performance thresholds than would bakery or would seafood or would other type of products. So by having the industry experience and the knowledge and then collaboratively crossing those shared experiences between Evertis and Belmark, we can anticipate some of those challenges. And then secondly, Kyle and Priscilla had alluded to this, but we looked at the entire portfolio of Evertis. We looked at the entire portfolio of Belmark, and we proactively looked at what are the best matchups, right? If we want to achieve a shallow draw with high barrier, it's product A plus B equals success. If we're looking at maybe a high PCR content bottom, and we want to complement that with a more sustainable or environmentally friendly top web that maybe hits some EPR criteria, that might be a different combination. Maybe we want to incorporate peel and reseal instead of just a predictable one-time peel. Again, different combination. So we proactively aligned the portfolios to anticipate, again, aligning by market or product, the different solutions.
Okay, great. I was hoping somebody would ask a pepperoni question, otherwise I was going to. How does the forming film handle the oils and fats from sliced pepperoni during fill and seal without affecting seal integrity?
I can take that. So I guess I know you're excited about the pepperoni, but the question, I'm going to broaden it a little bit more and just talk about contamination in general. Obviously, oils and fats with pepperonis, meats, that is a contamination that we'll have to seal through, as well as other types of contamination. And so what we've done in the past already, we've taken our bottom or the Evertis bottom web, our top web, and we've actually purposely contaminated it in some of our testing to make sure that the films we're suggesting will be able to seal through that contamination. And so we already have some marriages that are designed to get that better seal through contamination and be able to stand up to the consumer, the transit, the experience on a pusher rack without breaking open and ruining that seal.
Great, thank you. This question is going to be for Jason. Jason, what printing technologies does Belmark offer?
Yeah, good question. So Belmark has built our manufacturing model to accommodate the philosophy of one to millions. So meaning that we can absolutely support and accommodate the small entry level entrepreneurial brands, maybe where forecasts aren't as defined because you're entering the marketplace, maybe a lot of SKU complexity. So we do have a digital flexible packaging operation that can support that entry into market, low cost of entry. And then as that graduates in volume and things become a little bit more stable and predictable, we then can move on to more conventional printing technologies like flexography to support mid to longer runs. We do, in fact, have had a large success and adoption by our existing customer base to employ what we call Trident Max, which is a superior color management and printing technology that employs extended gamut printing. So I know there is some maybe brand color sensitivity around that, but with the technology advances and it continues to narrow the gap between flexography and gravure, the Trident Max platform has been extremely successful. So to answer the question, to circle back, digital and flexo on the flexible packaging side.
Great. Maybe we can get Kyle and Priscilla to answer this question. Is the PET forming film cast in a mono or multi-layer?
Our film, we work with a extrusion process, so it's a cast process. But in our Evertis portfolio, we have options and we have offering on coax material that's multi-layer. So when its barrier is required, we can work with PET, EVO HPE, for example. But we also have offering on monolayer, all PET-based structure as well. And
Great.
I don't know if you want to comment on the leading side, Kyle. I believe you'd be good.
Yeah, so we're able to offer multiple different webs. They're going to also be multi-layer, and then it's going to depend on what the bottom forming tray is, whether or not we need to have a PE or a PET. So it's a little difficult to answer the PET question.
In general, I would just add that it's multi-layer laminates, and many times that the individual layers of the laminate are multi-layer coaxes to achieve barrier and performance.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good question from the audience here. What percentage of the PCR can you put into the package?
It's going to depend on the portfolio again. So at Evertis, we have up to 50% PCR content. And on the flexible side, as I presented on the case study, we can go up to 20% of PCR.
From the lidding standpoint, we can pretty commonly achieve over 50% PCR on the lidding side. When you get into some of the resealable, as we talked about replacing the zipper with a resealable package, that does reduce the amount of recycled content you can have by weight. So we can't achieve 50%, but we can help achieve, I know specifically the California SB 54 is coming through, and some of the requirements, we have the ability to add recycled content to help meet those goals.
Now, here's one a couple people actually have asked this one. Good question. How do brand owners or processors engage both Belmark and Evertis together? Is there a single point of contact, or do they manage two separate supplier relationships?
Dan, you want to grab that one first, or you want me to take it?
Yeah, you take a swing and I'll follow in.
All right. Yeah, so the the thing that we'd like to make sure we impress upon everyone is that Belmark and Evertis are two different companies. And the opening question was, is this exclusive? And it's not, but there is a lot of synergy and a lot of philosophy that overlaps that creates a very collaborative, forerunning relationship. So whether the opportunity starts with Evertis or with Belmark, we will quickly enlist at your discretion the other elements into the equation. Um, Please understand that at the end of the day, whoever you work with, if Evertis is a really good fit and for some reason you find Belmark not to be, or vice versa, we will work with who the customer chooses. Okay, we have to play well in the sandbox with everyone. To answer the direct question as it relates to do you have to manage two different or separate supplier relationships, the answer essentially would be yes, because we each have our own sales structure. And we will each directly manage the account.
And
Dan,
I
you
think
can
that's
add
a
to that.
great, I think that's a great answer. And I would just build on it with the one, sort of the positive of dealing with two entities coming together in a collaborative approach like this is that you're not limiting the expertise by trying to channel it all through, one source of contact. We put it together on our side to make that contact as simple as possible, but still keep open the opportunity to tap into all of our technical or other resources that really help deliver great success on the brand owner side.
A lot of people interested in sustainability here, everyone. What solutions do you offer to address sustainability goals and pending EPR legislation?
I believe I can start with the forming side. So first, I'd like to highlight the Evertis structure can support the down gauging. So as you saw on the case study, we are able to down gauging in thermoforming application where traditional material may have limitations. The second point is, as the Evertis structure is PET based, it's create a path to incorporate PET PCR, as we talked before, and it's going to support the brand owners on all the preparation for the EPR related requirements. And finally, the PET-based structure depend on the application, such as, for example, sliced cheese. It's require a monomaterial PET structure that have already been commercialized. And the fact that it's monomaterial, and if it's meets the appropriate recycle guideline, so depending on the format and things like that, we know that it is suitable for PET recycling stream and can potentially be placed in the recycling bin directly.
Yeah, I'll add on that a little bit too and say kind of the key factor in a lot of the EPR laws coming out is reduction in plastic usage. So down gauging both the bottom forming web and the top lidding film can help reduce the amount of plastic used. And we also kind of alluded to it earlier, reducing plastic by removing zippers or things like that, and incorporating the resealability in the functionality of the film as well, and then increasing PCR usage on both sides, as we talked about as well. Those are really going to be your key factors in the new EPR laws coming.
Okay, we'll get to another question here from the audience. Very specific. I like this one. What are the minimum order quantities and lead times for procuring a matched lidding forming film system like this?
I'll kick off. So the I would say that again, if it's especially like in the case study example where it's printed, right? There may be a family of items. Within that family of items, there may be some high velocity moving and some smaller volume items. In combination, it might be an aggregate a decent amount, but the beauty is that from a printed film, custom printed film perspective, Belmark doesn't impose any minimum order quantities. You can truly order what you need when you need it, so that you mitigate your on-hand inventory, your working capital, cash tied up in inventory. It also allows you to get into market faster. And lastly, with ever-evolving legislations and legislative changes and regulatory changes, it reduces your risk of obsolescence if there is a design change or a requirement change. From a lead time perspective, we alluded to this earlier, but the industry lead time, be what it may, we strive to commit to achieving half of whatever that lead time is. So, for example, today the lead time on printed linear film from the point that art is approved is 3 weeks. And we've built our manufacturing base both from a capacity as well as from a standardization and process flow to accommodate that 3-week commitment. So Dan, go ahead and please comment from your side.
Sure, and I think lead time is really an important, commentary around this collaboration, because it's one of the key factors that, I think we as two companies circled first and foremost when we decided to come together on and work, is that we want our customers to have the same experience they have with the Evertis business when we bring in a partner to work on the top film. And so, mirroring, having lead times that mirror each other very much helps with obviously project timelines and ongoing customer business relationships. And so that is a key piece of success for both of us. So you see very similar lead times from Evertis. And from an order quantity standpoint, typically if you're running a forming film line, we 10,000 pounds is kind of where we try to draw the line to make things cost effective for everybody. But look, we as part of our scale ups, we are commonly producing 1 and 2 rolls to help people get up to speed, get their products tested and packed, and proceed from there.
And Dan, I think that actually, triggers another thought that might be a question in someone's mind, is as we identify an opportunity to work together in terms of the progression of qualification and scaling, both Evertis and Belmark, again, sharing the philosophy that we will support you with smaller quantities to mitigate exposure, to mitigate risk, and really take a due diligent path, right? So we will be responsive, quick, and we will accommodate smaller runs to go through that validation process and then bring you into scale on a comfortable pace.
Okay, great. This looks like a good question, I think, that we may end on here. What other applications have you worked on, and how do you best ensure optimal compatibility between lidding and forming films?
Yeah, I can take that to start, and I'll let you jump in, Priscilla, if you have anything to add. So I kind of talked about the meat, the cheese, processed foods, those kind of things as other applications we've worked on. And what this question kind of made me think of that I didn't touch on quite yet was the fact that we have the bottom forming web from Evertis, which has got lock seal capabilities, peelability capabilities, PT, PE, and then we have the top web where we can seal to that, and we can provide peelability functionality, lockup functionality to marry to what you need specifically, as well as reseal functionality. So we have all of the ability to create this optimal package that you're looking for. And then in regards to how do we ensure that compatibility, we're both eager and willing to implement technical support on line side for trials if it's necessary. We've traveled out many times together and supported trials, as well as the lab capabilities I talked about before. So we will support from both sides the whole way through to ensure that compatibility is there.
Okay, great. All right, well, we appreciate all the great questions, but that is all the time we do have for now. I want to thank everyone for attending this Plastics News webinar presented by Evertis. I especially want to thank the incredible speakers for their insightful presentation, for your expertise, and really taking the time to answer all those questions from our audience. So just for everybody else, If you have any further questions and want to reach out, we'll have the contact information in our follow-ups. And you'll find today's presentation by going to the webinar section of Plastics News website at plasticsnews.com. Again, thank you for Evertis for sponsoring this webinar today. Have a wonderful day, everyone.